Okay, let's get some properties into our ID selectors. I will start off with column 1 here. So make sure you drop your cursor right into your squiggly brackets there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a width here. We're going to set a width for all 3 columns, right? The left column, the main column, and the right column. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use pixels like, say, 100px, right? That would be a fixed width, right? So I want to use a flexible width or a scalable width. Some people call them dynamic values. Instead of using a fixed unit of measurement like pixels, I'm going to use percentage instead. So what I'm going to use for my layout anyway is 18%, just like that, followed by the semicolon, right? Hope that's cool. In fact, I'm going to try and use percentage for as much of my values here as I can. I'm going to throw on a margin left of just 1%. Throw that in there. There we go. And throw in a background color. This is optional, but I always like to, if you saw 10-Ton Dreamweaver, you know that I like to throw in gaudy background colors just so I can see the object. You know, it's a temporary background color, and then later on I'll remove it or, you know, change it to something else or whatever. So anyway, I'm going to throw in a background color, just number sign BBB and semicolon there. And then we want to float this guy. We want to float him to the left. There we go. So again, just a quick note. Notice no positioning value. It isn't set to relative or absolute or, you know, static or anything like that. This is it. This is all we need. Really, it just boils down to the width and the float. Those are the 2 properties that you've got to have when you're building a float layout, right? Or a floating layout. Okay, cool. All right, next up, column number 2. This is going to be our main content column. So column number 1, that is our, I guess it would wind up serving as our main menu. This column 2 is now going to be our main content column. So I'm going to set his width to something a little bit larger. I'm going to say 57%. Now, by the way, you might be sitting there kind of scratching your head going, well, why 57%? Why 18%? I'll explain, maybe at the end, we'll get all the way through, and then I'll explain exactly what's going on in here, so it all makes sense for you. Let's do a margin left of 1% as well. Margin left, 1%. You can throw on a background color if you like. I'm going to use a slightly different color gray here, number sign CCC, and we're also going to float this guy. I'm having trouble typing today. I don't know what my problem is. Anyway, float left. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to head down now to the 3rd and final ID selector that we have here. Column number 3, this guy is going to be the column over on the right-hand side. And what I'll do is I'll set a width to 18% as well. So the 2 columns, the 2 outside columns are going to be the same width, 18%. Margin left, we'll do 1% as before. I'll do a background, and I will use the same color as I used originally, BBB, and we want to float this fella. There we go. Okay, cool stuff. I think we're all right here. Let's save up our file, cross our fingers, and head back to the browser and refresh, and we get a whole lot of nothing. Let me explain what's going on here. We don't have any content. Let me just flip back to the code just for a sec here. We don't have any content inside the divs yet. When we don't have any content inside the divs, the height of the divs collapses completely, right? Just flattens right out. So what we can either do is we can either stick some content in here, maybe some temporary content, or what we can do is we could throw in a temporary height on our 3 ID selectors. It's entirely up to you. Now, most likely what's going to wind up happening is both solutions are going to be temporary. Whether you throw a height property onto your 3 IDs or whether you throw content into your actual page there, you'll probably wind up removing both and replacing that with actual real content when you're done sort of the templating process. I think what I'm going to do here for my IDs is I'm just going to throw in a quick height property, a temporary height. And I don't know, you can use whatever value you want. I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to use pixels here. I'm going to cave in and use pixels. So 500 pixels is what I'm going to set for the height of all three of my ID selectors there, my divs. Something like that, right? Save it up, head back to your browser, refresh, boom, we got a layout. Awesome. There's column number 1, column number 2, column number 3. As a matter of fact, if you want, it might be a good idea inside your code, inside the divs, to type in the name of the ID that's actually controlling that div, just so you can keep it straight in your own head, right? Something like this. Boom. Column 1, column 2, column 3. There's the lighter gray, the CCC. There's the 18% there on the left. What did we use there? 57% for the main guy, and then the 18% on the right. Now, the moment of truth. Resize your browser window. Abracadabra. There you go. This is what we're after. We want a layout that's dynamic, that's flexible, that's liquid, right? So all three columns are scaling as I resize that browser window. Awesome stuff. Okay, cool. Hopefully that's all good for you. Now, I do want to throw in one more quick thing, which is actually a bug fix for Internet Explorer. Obviously, here I'm on the Mac, but I want to make sure that my layout is going to work over on the PC side in Internet Explorer as well. And thankfully, it's an easy fix here. Go and find your column 1 ID selector inside your internal style sheet there. And we're going to throw on one more property here right at the end. Throw in display, :space, inline. All right. Now, for whatever reason, that fixes IE, but has no impact on all the other browsers, which is great. So if you happen to be watching this tutorial and you happen to be in Internet Explorer and it wasn't working for you, that should fix it for you. So cool stuff. There you go. There's your flexible layout. Now, we still have to add on our headers and our footers, and I want to explain exactly how this layout is functioning. So let's continue on here with our liquefied layouts.